why do you think the construction industry has a marketing problem?
A big part of it, I think, is just because there's not a lot of people who put in the time, the energy, and the effort to make it sexy. Hopefully this isn't too inappropriate, but I do believe in actually making the construction industry sexy because it's appealing. It's appealing.
Welcome to this episode of the AEC Engineering and Technology Podcast, a podcast dedicated to helping engineering professionals find technology that fits their needs. Marketing is often an afterthought in the construction industry. It's surprising given how crucial it is for business growth. The harsh reality is that many construction companies neglect marketing, and it's costing them opportunities and revenue. Today, I'm thrilled to speak about this topic with special guest, Derek Wong, ghostwriter and owner of Builders Press. We'll dive deep into the construction industry's struggles with marketing, the importance of branding, the role of digital marketing, and how embracing modern strategies can transform your business in the AEC industry. And with that, let's jump into today's episode. It's now time for our conversation of the week with Derek Wong. Derek, thank you so much for joining us and welcome to the show.
Appreciate it, Nick. I'm looking forward to this for a while.
Yeah, I know. And we've got a lot of good stuff to talk about. So we'll just jump right into it. So Derek, can you tell the listeners about yourself, what you do on a daily basis, and what inspired you to create Builders Press?
Yeah, so I'm the founder of Builders Press. It's just a ghostwriting agency to help founders in the construction industry. And so it's my goal, and it's a little bit of a fun story, but it's my goal to help make the construction industry sexy, to make it interesting, to make it awesome for people within the industry, as well as attracting other people from outside the industry as well.
Which I guess that makes a lot of sense to me as somebody who's in it, because I think sometimes the public perception of construction isn't always the best, right? But we've got a lot of interesting people both on the side of construction, actually putting work in place, to engineering, to construction tech. So it sounds like you've got a lot of different types of clients you could or have the potential to work with, right? Yeah.
There's basically everyone I speak with in the construction industry has something awesome to share. But the only person who ever hears it is maybe the family, their kids, the wife, and some friends who are willing to listen. But they have great stories, great things that they can share. A lot of the times they just don't know how to share it.
Well said. And I think if you're offering these services, right, and you're seeing a demand, something's going on that may not be obvious to your clients at first, right? But why do you think the construction industry has a marketing problem?
A big part of it, I think, is just because there's not a lot of people who put in the time, the energy, and the effort to make it sexy. Hopefully this isn't too inappropriate, but I do believe in actually making the construction industry sexy because it's appealing. It's appealing to, again, for people to want to work in it, for people to want to actually build great things in their cities, their communities, and to obviously build the world, right? As we keep growing, the number of people keep growing, we all need places to live, things like that. And so while people are actually working on building buildings and making processes better and faster, there's not a lot of people who are making the overall industry and that perception appealing and sexy to people.
So then I guess, in your opinion, what makes the construction industry less appealing to the general public, and how do we change that perception?
Yeah, there's a weird phenomenon that has happened. I don't exactly know when it might have happened, but hundreds of years ago, builders were revered. People saw people who were making the seven wonders of the world as high status, right? You have the Sistine Chapel, you have the Great Pyramids, you have all these things that are great feats of engineering. But now, 2024, you say you work in construction, people are like, oh, man, that's rough, man. We'll help you out. You'll get back on your feet someday, right? And it's like, what happened? Like, it used to be that way. And so there's a low status component to it, which sucks. And I want to, again, help be a part of that change. And changing that perception comes a lot through sharing stories, being able to show the actual impact of construction, right? And I love being able to look up at something and just be in awe, right? You just stand. If you go to any structure, I live in San Francisco, you go to the Golden Gate Bridge, and you just stand there and you're like in awe. You're like, oh my gosh, you made this. It's huge. It's magnificent. And being able to bring that sense of awe back to people, as well as, flip that script, that construction doesn't have to be low status.
Makes a ton of sense to me. And as somebody who works in the industry, it is surprising to hear that, because you're just around all the great stories of all of these people, right? Craftspeople, engineers, construction managers that are all coming together to make the industry what it is. And it's really great because we all need places to live, store, whatever the case may be. So we have just a huge impact on the rest of society.
Exactly.
So Derek, how do you help construction companies build their brand? And what common mistakes do you see them making within the industry?
Yeah. So to start, a simple answer is I help specifically construction tech companies. So startups and other companies that are helping construction firms either work some sort of new workflow or new process to help optimize their building. But I help these construction tech companies generate and capture attention, right? And so, especially in the social media age, attention is the most valuable currency. Everyone's fighting over it, right? And I do that through mostly social media and email marketing. But when I speak with clients about a lot of the common mistakes and a lot of the common, even just faulty beliefs that are in the construction industry, the most common thing I see is like that doesn't work. Email doesn't work. Social media doesn't work. You have to do handshakes. Well, and that's very important. Handshakes, of course, relationship-based industry. You have to be connecting and meeting with people, but being able to capture attention and build relationships at scale, you need to learn how to again do things like emails, do things like social media, and it does work. You're just bad at it right now, and that's okay, because that's how I end up helping again these construction tech companies and construction tech startups.
It's well said, Derek, because I think there are a lot of things us practitioners from the inside looking out we'd like to believe are unique just to construction or AEC in general. But there are techniques and strategies, like we go from, out in the field, shaking hands, cold calling, email campaigns, social media, right? That will work across different industries, but maybe just with a little bit of a different spin based on the nuances that you find in construction.
Yeah. One of the biggest things I've noticed is, especially in the construction industry, is you have to lead with that value first. You can't just start with, I'm looking for, I want to help customers, I want to help people do X, Y, and Z. And if you're on site and someone's cold calling you, you're like, I don't got the time for this. We're already backed up, we're already delayed. So again, leading with value, being able to help teach the different mistakes. I speak with a lot of founders who've been in the industry for a decade, 2 decades, and they have a lot of that experience. But it's sharing that experience. Okay, how can you again help educate people within the industry about the different mistakes you see and how to fix them, and preferably how to fix them with your product, with your service, things like that.
Understood. And I think a big part of whatever marketing you're doing is storytelling. It's just human nature, right? We like to hear and tell stories, but what role does it play, that is storytelling, in the marketing for construction, and how can companies use it to their advantage?
That's a good question. So construction, like we've already talked about, is a relationship-based industry, right? And with those, again, the handshakes, the face-to-face, storytelling is how you actually connect with others, right? Because without stories, you're just a faceless corporation. Oh, I am one of 50 different construction companies. We can do work for you, right? But with the stories of how you are an important group of people that you want to work with, how do you want to actually, again, bring your story to life, right? That's a big thing, even for how I got started with what I'm doing now. Is I'm based out here in San Francisco, right? And the two big problems that everyone has: high housing costs and high homelessness. Right? Everyone's complaining about that. The thing is, they have the same root: not enough housing. But whenever that got brought up in conversations, people were like, "Yeah, that sucks. Whatever." Anyways, I was like, "No, it's not whatever. Like this, we can do something about that." But that takes, okay. What's the problem? There's lots of problems attributed to that. But okay, how can we actually help the construction industry build more so that we don't have to face all these problems? Because again, like I live in San Francisco, where there's people, the greatest minds of the world are working on technology, things like AI, things like crypto, which are cool. I'm not really a big crypto fan actually, but I like AI. But those big technologies aren't going to change the root problems of, okay, we need places to live, we need people to have a place to call home, right? And AI, GPT-5 isn't gonna solve a housing crisis. It's people working and building these homes. So having these stories can help not only people connect with you, but for you to also understand, like, what am I doing this all for, and who is this all for?
And even communicating like the industry's specific problems, whether it's the ones that we're trying to solve for our clients or the ones we have internally, right? Like housing is an easy one to understand, shelter in general, the inefficiencies in construction, whatever you may attribute that to. And then in your case, living in San Francisco, storytelling to help, right, venture capitalists, startups, to help kind of see what these issues are and give them problems to solve, or whether you're looking for funding. So I totally get it. And one of the best ways to do that, as we've seen, Derek, is social media. So how important is a digital presence, especially social media, in reshaping the construction industry's image?
It's big, and it's just gonna get bigger, especially for, I think, one of the biggest problems that the construction industry faces, which is labor. Right, there's all these stats you can see headlines all over. Right, that there's in 2024 there's an estimated 500,000 people, 500,000 people, labor shortage throughout the construction industry. Right, there's an older report, a few years old, that says because the construction industry has a 21.4% turnover rate, which makes it one of the highest of all industries within the U.S. The craziest one to me was that there's more than twice as many workers who are over the age of 55 than there are under the age of 25, right? So we have this large gap of, okay, there's a lot of people who are missing, but even in the next 10 years, there's going to be a huge group of people that retires, and there's not people to replace them right now. And so we need, again, a lot more people to get involved. And that's coming in blips here and there. But being able to attract younger talent to be able to show what you can do in construction and engineering, right? Because now every day when you ask kids, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? They say YouTuber. They want to say TikToker, right? And that's just because that's what they see. They spend their time seeing and understanding, like, oh, this is something. Again, going back to my term or catchphrase, like, this is what's sexy. This is what all the cool kids are doing, right? And so making that a part of your own company and your own brand of, like, oh, this is what you can do when you're working on the hard problems. This is everything that went into building a hospital, these apartment complex, things like that will help, again, bridge that gap of the lack of labor, and especially the lack of younger people like myself who are in the industry.
So getting essentially the next generation of our workforce aware that we exist and telling them why, like, what we as an industry have to offer and why they should come work in the industry.
It's not just that getting people aware that it exists, because everyone is aware that construction exists. The problem is everyone is aware and they hate it. They're like, oh my gosh, there's this construction down the street and it's so loud, and like I couldn't find parking and it made me late for work, right? And so people are aware, like, oh yeah, there's construction, whatever. The problem comes is like their association with construction is all negative. Like it's loud, you know. They closed off the road and made me late for work, or there's extra traffic on the freeway, or anything like that. But making, you know, helping make the construction industry sexy is like, oh no. Again, that's the storytelling. Well, if there wasn't construction, like you would see a sinkhole pop up in the next 3 years. You would see, you know, like your water lines would be in disarray. You guys would be getting lead poisoning because, you know, we need maintenance on these things, and all these things is so crucial because, again, like people are aware of the construction industry in the same way that, you know, people are aware of, you know, all these other industries, AI, crypto, things like that. But it's the perception that needs changing. The perception of, oh, this is a net negative on my life. It made me late for work. To, oh, this is awesome. This is helping my community. How can I get involved?
Really well said. And just like essentially being like a YouTuber or a social media influencer is front and center for our next generation of the workforce by putting that positive connotation and giving them reasons to come join us. I think that's a great way to approach essentially what we're calling this labor shortage, which kind of leads me to my next question, right? How do you see marketing evolving for the industry in the future, particularly with the increasing use of tech and innovation? Because there's a certain way we do things today, but I could see a lot of room for change tomorrow.
Well, with tech and innovation always improving, there are some things that are never going to change, right? And one of my favorite authors, I don't know if you're familiar, is Morgan Housel, who wrote a book, Same as Ever, right? No matter, you know, 100 years from now, you know, 500 years from now, there are going to be some things that never change. And despite all the technology changes, everything's going to come back to, okay, what's it going to take to be real, to be authentic, and not to like, you know, lie or cloud the thing of like, oh yeah, I don't know, Nick, have you seen those TikTok or YouTube videos about a day in the life of a Google project manager, right? And they're like walking around and they're like, 9:30, get my coffee, 10:30, go to yoga, 12:30, I get some work done, you know, and then like 2:30, I go get my acai bowl. And you know, you're not gonna have that in construction industry, right? Because it's hard. You're gonna be on site. You're gonna be there, whether it's gonna be hot, whether it's gonna be cold, anything like that. But being authentic, it's like, okay, these are the challenges. But man, it feels awesome when we finish. You know, it takes a year and a half to build an apartment complex. And like I drive by and I see people walking in, and like I know like I helped those places where people live, right? And so it's always going to again come back to that authenticity and being able to share. Okay, this is my experience. This is how we build. This is how we work the day to day. It's hard, but I love it, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. And these are how. This is the feeling that I get. This is the excitement, the satisfaction of a job well done.
And I like that, Derek. It's like essentially the more things change, the more they stay the same. And to the audience, you know, what you're hearing is, although we have technology at our disposal, people are innovating every day. There are certain things that just don't change, particularly anything related to human nature and you know, the satisfaction of a job well done being one of those things that's just never going to go away.
Exactly.
Derek, you know, it's been great having you on, and I think this has been an awesome interview because it's a little bit of a different perspective rather than a product or an emerging trend or a practitioner coming on the show. It's you as a marketer and somebody who's out to help practitioners in the industry get better at their craft on that side of the business. So Again, it's been a pleasure, but I wanted to ask, what final piece of advice can you offer to engineers and professionals in the AEC industry that are looking to improve their brand and stand out?
I'm a little biased, but I say write more, write authentically. Like I was saying earlier, get out there and share your thoughts. One of the biggest concerns that people might have is, oh, if I start writing, like, what is my manager going to think? What are they going to do? Long story short, they don't care what you're posting. They're like, oh, they might see it. But for the people who do care and the people who your knowledge can actually impact, it's going to go a long way. And being able to, again, be authentic. No one wants to hear the flowery, oh, you can, these are the great things that you can do. Like, again, be real. Like, the construction industry is hard. It's worth it, but that's ultimately what you want. That's ultimately what we all want at the end of the day, is to be able to sit satisfied as like, not only was, say, a hard day of work, but I know it's for something great.
Well said, Derek. And again, thank you so much for joining us today. How can the listeners connect with you if they want to ask you additional questions or about anything we've spoken about today?
Yeah, they can reach out to me on LinkedIn. It's probably the best way to reach out. I'm fairly active on there. It's just Derek Wong on LinkedIn and at Builders Press.
Derek, thank you again for joining us. It's been a pleasure. And until next time, we'll catch up soon.
I'm sure. I appreciate it, Nick. This is awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Derek. Please remember, you can find the show notes for this episode at aectechpodcast.com. There, you will find a summary of key points discussed in today's episode, as well as links to any of the resources, websites, or books mentioned during this episode. Until next time, I wish you the best in all of your engineering and technology endeavors. Thank you.